Cool, 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 cool. So this is King's Row from your last scrim, and we're just going to start off. So first of all, Sombra gets her translocator destroyed, and when that happens to Sombra, you probably want to be very, very careful about hard committing, because from where you're flanking, it's going to be tough to get a good translocator, and that's basically what gets you killed. Anyway, so here our our Reaper and our Sombra go in, and they get this flank. They get the kill, sword gets traded because of that mistake. Now, so first of all, can either of you answer what are some ways that you can help out your flankers? Just name anything.
We could be pushing in right now while they're in the back line, cause a pincer strategy. Tanks either have to turn deal with the flankers or keep pressure on the front line.
Yeah, exactly. So the question is now, why aren't you guys doing that, right? Here, right, you can't be slow here. If you guys want to make the most out of your flanking plays, then you need to have your whole team pushing in here rather than just doing the very, very, very low spam onto their front line, which already has a lot of HP. You guys need to be taking away attention so that you can actually have your flankers get value. If you're not comfortable pushing up this whole distance here, then what you can do is you can just have your flankers go later. Rather than have them wait up here and flank, you can have them wait like here and then flank, right? So anyway, wherever you're positioning, you should always be looking to set up flanks in a position where your whole team can get in on the action, because that's going to turn like a trade or like 1 or 2 kills into an actual team fight win where you can clean up and get like 4 to 6. So also, you guys are running a Ryan here, Ryan Sigma. That's not the worst pick, but you have to recognize that whenever you pick Ryan, you have to change your playstyle. It's pretty hard, honestly, to make like really bad compositions, because you just really need to stick to the concept, right? They're tough to play, but when you're playing Ryan, you want to brawl, right? Because Ryan doesn't do as much spam as Risk Sig. So if you sit here at the front line, you guys are 100% going to lose Shield War, no matter what, right? Because they just have way more frontline damage. If you're playing Ryan, you need to be adapting your gameplay. This style here that you guys are playing is really more like Risk. So you got to think, do you really want to play Ryan that badly? Then change your style. Or if you really want to keep that style of just sitting passively and, spamming, then you should definitely be swapping to Orisa here. So anyway, your Reaper TP's out. You guys can be doing a lot more pressure here. And then when it comes to this setup, right, definitely we want closer control of the statue. I'd like to see our supports more with the Rhine so that they can help him out, and also so that they're actually in cover rather than being vulnerable when Sig Shield is down. That's the reason why our Lucio gets killed soon as I play this replay on. You guys want to be closer so you can actually hold this space more aggressively. If you're standing close on statue, makes it way, way, way easier to do what Ryan is supposed to do. It makes it easier for you to brawl, right? If they come over here, there's a much shorter distance that you have to run to actually hit them. Same goes for this side, And if you're playing close, makes it way, way easier for you to do those pinch, right? You always, always, always want to pinch whenever you can. There's really no reason not to. If you guys are coordinated and you have the right timing, that all 6 of you are going in at the same time, why would you want your Reaper to be shooting shields? Why not have him shooting the supports in the back? It's much, much better that way. And then another thing that's going on with your Reaper here earlier, 1 second, just a micro note here when it comes to angles, is you want to be careful with like showing yourself on these angles, right? So whenever you push when Reaper starts shooting here, that notifies them that they have the Reaper, right? So you want to try and keep your flanks unactivated and sort of, I guess, like stealth whenever you're waiting for an engage, and then you want to activate them. That way, the enemy team doesn't have time to force them out, right? Let's say if Reaper peeked out a little bit too much, or if just a lucky shot, he could get low. That could force cooldowns from him. That could force him to go back and get a health pack. That's going to be really, really bad if you guys suddenly need to have a full team fight and your Reaper's going to go get healed, right? So try and keep your angles deactivated, and then once it's time to engage, quickly switch on, and then have a 6-person team fight. Obviously, your Sombra is still coming back, so you want to play a little bit passively here. Their Junkrat just walks into your Reaper, that's his fault. And then you guys sort of content on this angle, sort of sitting on statue. You could be chasing that a little bit more, at least putting more pressure. I like that your Reaper goes back up to top left, that's good. But then here he's sort of engaging, right? Here's that thing where your Lucio died because he's sort of not really playing hard cover. You can't just rely on your shields. You're going to get the exact same value as Lucio sitting here, like, you know, in cover. They're still in your heal aura. If you want to shoot, peek out as needed. That's a really big thing. So you guys, like, standing here, you're just being lazy, right? If you guys stand here because, oh, you know, the enemy's in front of me, you know, I can shoot. But you get the exact same thing if you just stand on a corner, peek over and shoot. Stand on a corner, peek over and shoot, right? You're really, like, you don't gain anything from standing like here. You just only increase your risk. Always look at how much you're actually getting for the risk you're putting yourself in. Again, Reaper goes in kind of early here, and as a result, he gets forced to Wraith. You know, I'd rather see, you know, him wraithing out after the team's already dead, right? After there's a full engagement here. And here, Sombra, she's sort of just spamming. That's like another key thing when it comes to flanking. Don't worry so much about getting like a tiny amount of poke, right? Because you're not going to get that much ult charge. Everybody gets more ult charge during a full-on teamfight win. So I'd rather see you not farming so much because you can get forced out. I'd rather see you hiding and waiting for them to engage and then getting a hack that lets your team engage and definitely win the team fight. While you guys are winning that team fight, you're going to get more ult charge. It's not really worth it to spam just so you get forced out. And again, you guys are playing spam here, you're going to lose spam. Their risk sig, your Rein sig, you're at a disadvantage. Always look at the difference between your composition and their composition and see what they're trying to do, what you're trying to do. You guys, very obviously, if I were to see this composition, you guys want to pinch with your flankers and you want to engage and brawl. Their composition, they want to spam, they want to break down your shields. They have a Junkrat, right? They have a Zen. They're definitely going to play spam here. You guys need to deny them the spam. You need to play the brawl. Right, and now again you see there's totally uneven timing between when your flanks and when your core is active. They can choose what fight they want to take. They can take a 6v1 to force out a flanker. They can take the 6v3 to kill your Rein. Don't let them do that. You always want to have timing on your flanks. Don't just do the flanks.
Objective lost. Stop the payload.
Brooke, you muted again.
I always do this when I drink water. My okay. We're good. So as they're pushing in, right? You guys are doing this thing again where you're just spamming when you shouldn't be spamming, right? Your key to engage is Reaper flank and like Sombra hack and stuff, right? So right now, your Reaper got late spawn. Oh wait, yeah, it's your Widow now. No longer your Reaper. But you have one late spawn, you have your Sombra who's not set up yet, and you guys are sitting here taking a spam war. 100%, 10 out of 10 times, you are going to lose this spam war. So you really shouldn't be doing this. You need to be hard LOSing. Like literally, if you guys aren't ready for the fight, you can't take spam, right? If you aren't ready for the fight, take literally 0 damage. You should not be taking damage until you're ready to fight. Because in this situation, every little bit of damage you take before you're ready to fight is going to lower your chances of winning. So now, normal time. As you can see, you guys are still playing way too slow. Don't have an engagement, but you're sitting on the corner anyway. You're going to lose this. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Do you see how you guys aren't actually doing anything at all? and you guys need a kite, the cart has all this space to move. You don't need to contest it. If your Rhine has that much HP left, you don't need to contest it. You guys should be hard LOSing going all the way back because you're not going to gain anything. You're just taking fights over and over again when you're at a disadvantage. Now your Rhine's split, has no healing, he dies. Yeah, it's just a stomp for them because they're getting to do what they want and you guys aren't. You're playing exactly into what they want to do. Yeah, based on how you guys are playing, I'd really, really prefer you guys play more of a hard spam comp more often. Echo Ashe, Sombra, not Sombra, Rissa, and Sigma would be way better for the kind of play style you guys have. Like, just way, 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 way better. Because you aren't playing, like, you're just picking heroes, but you aren't playing to what makes those heroes really strong. And now here, you guys are going in for this engage. And again, you're totally split. You're down resources because you're taking spam. When you guys take spam, every single ounce of damage that you guys take at the start is going to be lowering your chances of actually winning this team fight. You guys hit EMP Shatter. That's a good combo. And then your Rhine dies anyway. Look at this. You guys lost a fight with EMP Shatter. You can't. That can't be happening. Interesting. One small note that I'd like to see. I know you guys are splitting like when you come out of the respawn. That's good because you don't want to just all get stuffed in one door. Micro thing. I'd rather have Rhine and Sigma swap. Rhine should always be coming out of this left door. Sigma should always be coming out of this right door because this door plays more towards range, and this door is, you know, it's closer. It's more brawl, right? Because Sigma's a spam character, Rhine is a brawl character, and more often teams will try to stuff this choke, right? If they're trying to, if the card is getting close and they're trying to, you know, push into spawn to make sure you guys can't touch, a lot of them will be going on this side, and that's where Rhine's going to be best. Rhine, this whole space that you're covering here, you're not going to be doing as much when Sigma can be doing actually spam. That's just a little note. Fortunately, though, they don't actually have that much pressure in this situation. But if the cart were more forward, or not really, if the team was just more aggressive with how they took space, you guys would be in really big trouble. But regardless, you're down your Widow, so you are in trouble. And again, you're playing slow. This is something that I already talked over with Ryan, but when it comes to windows, something you guys have to incorporate is there's two different types of windows. There's spam windows and there's brawl windows. So spam windows is what you guys are doing, where he puts down window and you guys all spam through it, and sure, you get a lot of damage, but a lot of the times that they can just kite, right? They can just run away and you won't really be getting that much damage, that many kills. Spam windows are a lot stronger with Orisa because she can halt and keep them in your LOS longer. Otherwise, you only really want to be using windows like this when you definitely have them in like a really open area or when they're forced to commit, right? Because here they have a lot of cover, so you're going to get less value sitting here and spamming than you would if you just pushed up, right? What you should be doing is what I call a brawl window, where you guys do this window, they run away because they have to, and then you guys push up and the Baptiste stays behind. This way the Baptiste will still get double healing through the window, and you guys are going to be able to push up and rapidly take a lot of space. That's going to be very, very, very important for your playstyle on this composition, is when you window, they're going to give you free space, push up and take it, and then you can clean up an entire fight and turn a window into a teamfight winning ultimate rather than just something that stalls for time. Because right now, all you guys are doing is stalling for time with that window. So yeah, here, you guys are just sitting here. Your Widow manages to win the duel, which is cool. But again, you guys are playing spam war. The longer this fight goes on, the more disadvantageous it is for you, unless your Widow just pops off your dies. But yeah, there, you guys were literally, you're just relying on your Widow to carry you. Like, literally, he's carrying that fight when he's getting those dinks, and you guys are basically doing nothing because you're losing the spam. Again, if you guys push up, you're more proactive, you would be cleaning up these 4 kills. You wouldn't be letting them run away. Yeah, you guys could be being much more aggressive here. You could, right? What you can do when you have lamp, this is more of a spam thing. But when there's this corner here, this is a lampable corner for you. They don't have a corner, and they don't have a Baptiste even at all. So whenever you guys turn this corner, you're at an advantage because they have no cover, but you guys have a lamp corner that you can use. So if you guys plan on using the Orisa, play around that where you can aggressively take their space, right? So now, if you guys turn this corner, they are in a disadvantaged zone because they have no cover. Meanwhile, you guys have a lamp that they can't destroy, and you can stay there for a very long time. Overall, as a brawl comp, I'd like to see your Widow hooking up to a more aggressive angle, and I'd like to see you guys push off your advantages when you have them. You're really just letting them get away with way too much. Rein Shield's 1 HP, and the fight hasn't even really started yet. They push in with Cole. You guys give up the space because you can't really do anything else. Lamp gets forced out. You're just always in a very, very, very disadvantaged state. Yeah, when you guys Sigma ult, that's another thing. And when you guys Genji Blade. This is another thing. I really, really, really don't see this Genji Blade getting value. Let's play this out. Yep. See, this Rein pin in is good. This needs to happen before. This hard engage needs to happen in a Sigma ult, right? When you flux them up, your team should be pushing in so aggressively that when they land, they are landing on top of you so you can finish killing them. Same goes for Genji Blade. If you guys are going to use Blade, call that out ahead of time, Genji, right? And your team is pushing in, right? This should happen like right here, right? And then Genji, at this moment, Genji should be up here pulling his Blade. Genji Blade shouldn't be that early. You guys need to hard engage and take away resources and take away attention from the enemy team in order to set up your big kill ultimates like Sigma Flux and like Genji Blade. Because otherwise, the enemy team has enough resources to deal with one person, right? Like, just think about it. If it's 6 people versus 1 Genji, of course they should be dealing with him. But if it's a 6v6 fight, plus you have Genji Blade, then you should be winning. And now, like, you pin in, but then you don't even go all the way. You're, like, with how the playstyle is, you're doing, like, the worst of both options. You could be sitting back and spamming, you could be playing aggressively. You're going aggressive, taking more damage, and then going back to spam phase where, again, you're just going to lose. It's honestly a miracle they haven't pushed even faster. Yeah, again, Widow gets the kill. Their Moira falls off the map. Yeah, it's really just a DPS carry that's happening. Your tanks aren't being active at all. The reason why you guys are winning any team fights is because $sign is hitting headshots and DBM is, you know, occasionally getting kills. Like, the rest of the team, the whole core, isn't putting on any pressure. You guys could stop them. You guys could first hold these guys if you were just more proactive. Widow gets a kill. There's not really any reason why an Orisa should be dying first to a Widow, but whatever, let's move on. Any questions so far?
So far, I don't have any, personally.
Okay. Let me know, like, by the way, as this review goes on, I know I talk really fast and sometimes very aggressively, but feel free to interrupt me. If you have a question that you want to answer now, just go ahead and interrupt me. I'm not gonna get offended by it, and I won't lose my train of thought or anything, so don't worry about it. If
Alright.
you guys have a question, just ask it. So here, right, I see your Genji has Blade. I see he's on the flank. Why not have him on the flank, stay on this corner? You could even have Sigma up here as well. Like, that would be really cool, have Sigma up here also. But in general, just be on this corner, taking 0 damage, and then when it's time, when they push in, then you hard engage, right? Because look what's happening. Right as your Genji is going to engage, your Ryan has 400 shield HP left. Why? Why are you guys waiting? Genji goes in, your team isn't there to take out those resources, so he's going to get stunned at the beginning. It's 1 HP. He gets literally nothing with that blade. Finally, you guys are pushing up, but you're going to die because you took damage at the start of the fight. You're forced out of beat because you're at a disadvantage. They flux because you have no beat. Finally, you guys have 6 people again, but now you're using your lamp when you didn't really need it, and you're at a disadvantage again. I mean, even the enemy team should be more aggressive here. They're playing spam, kind of like their Kree's shooting shields. Their Kree could be, like, this is something you guys should be ready for. So their Kree could be going in here, right? Their Kree very, very, very easily could go in Mega and get shots past your shield. I'd like to see in the future, when you guys are setting up, somebody guarding this flank, depending on what composition you're running. If you're running Ashe, that's very, very good. Ashe Sigma can hold this area very, very, very well. And when they try and push into cart here, you have the easiest off angle in the world. You just push out a little bit, and you can see their whole team. You can see their backline. Definitely, you could have Sigma Ashe here. You could have, Sig Brig, just if you wanted the Brig to support the Sigma. You want to be taking these off angles here as well, because you guys are still sort of stacking on main way too much. Let's look at your Widow POV here. Look at this. This LOS is very, very bad because somebody lands in it anyway, of course, but you could be getting so much more if you were just taking a more aggressive angle and your tanks were, pushing in more, right? Like, this is honestly like a miracle. Like, $sign is playing very, very, very well right now. Sword's also playing really well, considering that you guys are giving so few resources to your DPS. You guys should be, investing more resources. Your DPS can really, really, really pop off. Like, you could easily, honestly, scrim up like an extra 200 SR if you guys were being more aggressive. Once you guys get this down, once you guys get off angles down, very, very easy. Because your DPS definitely have the talent here.
Thank you.
Again, Genji's just on the front line. You don't want Genji on the front line because that A, increases the probability of you getting shot in the face, and B, increases the probability of you just shooting shields. Like, there's never a reason where, Genji shooting shields is better than him shooting their flank, right? You're just not getting alt charged. You're not getting, actually very, very important damage. But Widow pops off again.
10 seconds remaining.
Interesting shatter.
Yeah,
They're
Hydro has still got a bit of a ways to go when it comes to main tank because he's still new to it.
Yeah, mechanically wise, it's not like there's super, super big issues. I know that he's new to the role and stuff, but it's also a team. It's a team thing. Like, as a main tank, obviously you're very unsure of when the team's gonna push in, right? You don't know those limits, right? What you guys need to do is you need to test your limits. You guys need to go aggressive. You guys need to see how it feels. That means the supports, and now that we're covering this as a team, right? The supports can say, yeah, we'll push in with you. Yeah, we'll put pressure. The Sigma can be like, yeah, we'll put pressure. We'll support you, right? Ryan can go in, and now you have this pass to be more confident, right? Because obviously, when you guys are playing like this, it's a team-wide play style that I see, right? You guys, as a team, are not really taking the space that you need to be doing. You're not really brawling the way you need to be doing with this composition. this team, they're bad, honestly, right? I mean, every team's bad in some way. Everybody's making mistakes all the time, even Overwatch League teams. But considering how easy it is for this team to play to their advantage, I'd say they really should be winning team fights. But again, your DPS are very, very talented. If you guys push in more, you guys can iron out those stakes, and you can really, really pop off here. Yeah, once you guys beat, you finally do push in, and you see how much easier it is? Like, you guys push in, and you just ran into their spam front line, right? In that situation, because it was overtime, they were forced to be close to you. And guess what? You guys won the close range fight, right? Did you see how the Ryan just started swinging into the Riss and the Sigma? That's it. Just play close. The closer you play, the easier it is for you guys to win when you're on Ryan. If you're running Orisa, then by all means you can play more passively, but it's not going to work out otherwise. You guys should have been holding them on first or at least on second.
Ready
All right, any questions so far?
4, 3, 2.
I know
Not
this
for
is
me, no.
I'm talking kind of fast sometimes, and there's a lot of information to get over here. But again, it's mainly the same concept. This is a very big core concept that I've mentioned a lot, because a lot of teams don't feel super bad, guys, because a lot of teams struggle with this, even up to like tier 3, right? Like low mid tier 3, 4400 SR teams struggle with this as well when it came to actually grasping the meta, because it is kind of intuitive, right? You don't want to just int in, right? It's kind of scary to just go in super aggressively, and sometimes it's kind of scary to take off angles and stuff when you're not sure if they're going to work out. It feels like, stacking with your team is the better option, right? Because it feels safer. You're right next to them. But as long as you're in LOS, if you guys have good timing, if you do the off angling and flanking right, if you do the aggression right, it is going to be way better than playing passively the way you guys are.
1.
So here again, you guys have a Genji and a Hanzo, right? One thing that Genji and Hanzo are good at is off angles, right? You
swapped to
don't want to
Widow, by
have
the way.
a Han. Wait, did someone speak? I just heard.
Yeah, he swapped to Widow, by the way. Like right off the bat. Like the second that you said
All right,
Genji
okay.
and Hanzo.
It's basically the same. It's basically the same concept.
Yeah.
Because a Widow on an off angle, right? A Widow that's shooting past shields is very scary, right? And a Genji that's shooting past shields, a Genji that's on your flank, right-clicking your supports in the back of the head, is very scary. So also, as a Widow, right? Let's say this Widow is comfortable 1v1ing you. Is he comfortable 1v1ing a Genji that just climbs up and then triple dinks him and dashes him? No, right? So use the Genji to take control of these off angles, right? Force the Widow out, create more space for your Widow, and then once the Genji's forced the Widow out, he can take aggressive off angles, and that's how you guys win this fight. That is the blueprint for you guys to win this, is you push in, you apply pressure with your core, and then you let your Genji pop off and maybe kill this Widow, or at least force her out. That's going to create the space for your DPS to frag out. And from there, it's just, as I've said this, I say this a lot to teams, is it's like an anaconda, like strangling prey, right? You just take the off angles and you put more and more pressure until eventually the enemy team breaks, right? When you get kills, it makes it harder for the enemy team to deal with an off angle, right? If you guys kill their Widow, it makes it harder for them to deal with your Widow. Therefore, your Widow over time is going to win the fight for you guys. So you just need to play to control those off angles, and you're going to win. So what's happening here is a Widow takes the duel with their Widow. Sure, you could do that if you're super confident that you're going to kill their Widow. But according to this scenario, our Widow doesn't win. Why would you do that when you could wait literally like 4 seconds, right? Just a little bit until your Genji is here and he just wins the duel for you. You don't need to take this ego duel where it's just a battle of the aim trainer. You can just let your Genji handle it for you, and then you can take aggressive positioning. You don't need to worry about the duel. Right, if you just waited. How did our Baptiste die? Yeah, you guys are sitting at choke and you're spamming. If you guys are running Ryan Lucio, this is a rotation-heavy composition. I haven't talked too much about the Lucio yet, but Lucio, he's not the best support, right? He's worse at healing than any other support. He's worse at DPS than like other supports, right? The only thing that Lucio excels at is providing speed, because nobody else can do that. So if you guys have a character designed to provide you speed, you need to use it, right? If you guys are running Reinhardt, who needs the speed to survive, you can't be sitting there, because you are 100% going to lose this fight if you just sit there. So that means what you guys should be doing with your core is here, you stack up on the corner, 0 damage taken, and then 3, 2, 1, and then you rotate somewhere. You've got a lot of options. You can rotate a statue, but and then go ahead.
I think we might have actually done that in the future here. I think that's
Okay.
might have been what we did. Because I remember at one point in time we did rotate through either far right or through hotel. Because we never pushed straight through choke, I don't think. And if we did, we probably lost that fight almost instantly. But
Yeah. Yeah, right side, like if you, yeah, that's fine. But this is something you guys should be doing out the gate, right? Because it shows that you guys don't really know what the win condition is here. If you guys go to statue, I prefer, right, because statues gives you sort of a moment of respite where you're not taking damage from the enemy. Then turning on this corner, it's going to be longer distance. So you can go statue for a bit, and then you can push here. But again, they have a lot of frontline damage. They have a lot of spam, which means it's going to be tough for you guys. Rotating through hotel is very good because, again, this is a covered area. And then you can push out here. You're much closer to the enemy team. Plus, this provides the potential for a fake out or a pinch, right? You can wait in here. They expect you to come out this door, and then you rush out this door and engage. Or you can do both, where you rush out this door, and then you have a flanker come out this door and, you know, pinch them from both sides. So hotel is a very good rotation in general. You could see creating a lot of space with Genji, right? Once he pushes up here, right? Look how they're focusing, right? As soon as the Genji is showing itself, they're focusing. And that is potential for you guys to rotate in, right? If you guys were ready to push in here, that'd be way easier for you guys to get in without getting blown up first. Same goes for Widow, right? With our Widow taking a more aggressive angle, it's going to put more pressure on them. And it goes both ways, right? The more you guys invest in each other, the more everybody's going to get from it, right? The more you support your DPS, the more pressure they're going to exert, and in turn, they're going to support you more.
After Alex,
Okay. Can you guys now, that we've been in this review for so long, can you guys tell me what you're doing wrong?
we're taking the
sitting in
neutral
choke
fight.
for too long.
Anything else?
So we're taking the neutral fight, and we're trying to like play a spam war almost right now. We also have our Widowmaker on like kind of in that top right hand angle, and she's providing pressure currently on the front, so we could be trying to speed and rotate in currently.
Yeah, that's true. But again, you guys are taking damage on rotation. You guys are taking the spam war. You're playing passively. Your Genji is on the front line. That's a key thing. Your Genji should always be looking for a flank around. You guys are stacking on 6, right? They're over here. They only have to deal with one angle. They can afford to push their shields right here. You never want them to have both their shields in the same spot, because that means you guys aren't putting enough pressure. you should be looking to set up flanks on these other sides, just like how Genji did it in the first fight, right? Put pressure from the sides so that they have to split their shields, right? So they have to put a shield here and one here, right? Then, let's say they have a shield here, they have a shield here, and then you guys got pressure here, and you send a flank around here. They only have 2 shields. You guys have 3 different angles of attack. You have 3 different zones of pressure. That is something you guys should be looking to set up. You have the various resources you can use. You've got Genji, you've got Widow, you've got Sigma, you've got your core. They're all capable of creating angles. You always want to have at least 3. Try and set those up as soon as possible so you can get them to stop stacking their shields. Because if you have 3 points of aggression, there's always going to be one person who's not shooting a shield.
Yeah, here's the hotel push.
Okay. Again, this is better. But then you guys 6-stack out this door. And look at your Genji. Look what he's doing. He's shooting shields. He gets a kill occasionally, but he shouldn't be getting this kill. What the enemy team could be doing is they could be backing up. They could be playing a better support composition, just having a Baptiste lamp, right? They could be playing the distance and completely devaluing this, right? Imagine if the enemy team just backs up more here, right? Then you guys have less space. You're in the exact same position that you were before. But if we change your strategy so you have more pressure on this side too, it's way harder for them to do that. I don't like having your Genji on the same angle as your team. Like basically none of your team fights, you should have your Genji just going in front line. Especially with the new Genji patch, if you guys plan on continuing to use Genji, he does way less shield break. Like before, he did like a decent amount of shield break because he just had that buff, but now he really doesn't. So you can't have your Genji on the front line. They use ults. Your Widow gets a pick, and then they use Sigma ult. Yeah, again, this was a long fight, and they're going to win it in the end. They're always going to win long fights, because they're on a more pure spam composition than you guys are. Like, one thing that I need to talk about is when it comes to compositions, you don't just have to do one thing, right? You don't just have to go pure spam. You don't just have to go pure dive. You don't just have to go pure brawl, right? What you guys actually are on is, you know, it's sort of a spectrum, right? Any composition can lend itself sort of towards 2 of the characteristics. It's really difficult to get like 3 in a more balanced way, but you can have a spam composition that also does some brawl, right? And that's what your composition does. You can brawl, right, with Reinhardt, but you also have the capability of setting up angles. Let's say you had Mei, and let's say you had Doomfist. It'd be a little bit harder to set up those angles, right? Because Mei can't as easily, get on flanks and control them. That's not really where her value comes from. Same goes for Reaper. Same goes for, Kree's also like okay at flanking. Reaper's okay at flanking because he can teleport behind, right? He can still create that extra angle, but it's not like full brawl, right? A full brawl comp mainly is just going to be inting in. You guys, you can set up angles to assist your team fight, and then you can use that to int in, right? So don't just, if you guys wanted to do that, where you just rotated through Hotel and then ran into them, play like Mei Reaper. Play like literally Ryan Diva, Lucio Brig, or Lucio Moira, Mei Reaper, then sure, that strategy works. But you guys are not really recognizing how your composition is sort of a hybrid between spam and brawl, and that you should be playing to, playing to all your strengths, right? Don't just look for brawl. If you wanted to just do brawl, then do a brawl comp. Do a real brawl comp. Their Junkrat feeds. And again, one mistake that they're making is they could be definitely playing a lot more angles. They could have their Sigma. Like Sigma Ashe is a very popular angle that you see a lot. Sigma Junk would be a very strong angle too. They could have their Widow up in this window instead. They could have their window peeking from here. They're also doing a very, very bad job of taking angles here. But imagine how tough it would be to push in here if you had a Junk spamming you from top right, you had a Widow shooting you here, and you had their core, right? If they had 3 points of aggression here, which they could very easily set up their composition, this is going to be so much worse. You guys have beat, you guys have shatter. Right, overall, you just have a really big ult advantage for that fight, and they weren't using angles properly. That's why you guys win this fight. That's the only reason why you guys cap first. Is because also, they're not a perfect team either. Right, so now here, we are on third phase, right? And most maps in Overwatch, you'll notice, have this funny trend where they have 3 lanes. They have a center lane, which you can call main. They have a right side lane, right, this sort of flank. And they have a left side lane, right? You can see that very distinctly from above. Now, anytime you guys are defending or attacking, you should be looking to control all 3 of these lanes. Genji is very good at that, right? Most characters aren't really going to win a 1v1 against your Genji. So he has a lot of pressure there. Core can push up main. You guys can control these. And then when it's time for an engagement, turn the corner here. Turn the corner here. You guys have a 3 angle of aggressions, and you guys have a 1 team fight right there. But again, you just push up here, and look at this, right? Their Ashe has free reign over here, and so does their Widow, right? He's gonna get free damage on your flank because you guys are allowing that to happen. Same goes for your Widow. Your Widow could potentially spawn camp your Lucio or your Widow here if they're not expecting this, right? You aren't clearing this out, you're giving them free angles. This Widow honestly might want to be here instead. That'd be even worse for you guys, right? If you aren't controlling these angles, you're going to end up in a disadvantaged fight. And just like that, you guys, use Lamp. Against a composition that's Moira Brig, and you guys have BAP Brig, your biggest advantage, support-wise, is going to be your Lamp. You don't want to be wasting that Lamp before the fight actually starts. Because if that Lamp is used correctly, it's going to give you guys an extra 5 seconds of lifetime in the actual brawl. That is going to allow Baptiste to massively outvalue the Moira because she's going to eventually start running out of heals, right? So, you guys can't be wasting Lamp here. That means you guys are, again, you're taking like a 6v6 spam fight across a lane. It's not going to work out. And they win this fight. Now this, for them, is a very, very good position. They have their bongo in an area where it can't really be destroyed. And then they have a lane here, right? Notice how this is a lane. They can turn this whole area into a spot where you don't want to be, right? You don't want to be standing here because you're going to be taking a lot of damage. That means they have more map control than you, right? You guys are going all in on this lane, and then as soon as they use ultimates or they do something to take advantage of that lane, that's it. You put all your eggs in one basket, and now you really, you can't do that much. You guys just have to sit here. You guys are going to go down. You guys are going to lose Shield War. If you guys had, like a Genji on the flank, we had maybe Genji over here, right, could kill the Widow, could create a flank, right? If you had off angles, the off angles aren't really devalued by the bongo as much, right? Someone could peek around here and even shoot the bongo, right? So when you guys all commit on this lane, that makes your team, like your chance of winning the team fight, very volatile. Because if they just have an ultimate that they can use, then it's over. You don't have anything else to rely on. Do you guys understand what I mean when it comes to taking angles and stuff? Do you guys understand how we can apply that to other maps too? Cool.
Sorry, I'm a bit
That's okay.
tired. I've woke up at 6 for graduation practice this morning.
Alright, this is a comp like again, they're taking no angles, which is suboptimal for them, but they're gonna win it anyway because they're allowed to take a spam war. You guys aren't. But again, because they didn't have those angles, right, they sort of went to premature with that bob and stuff because you guys were able to kite that, right? You can learn from the enemy team's mistakes. What they should be doing is let you in, right, just like they did before, where you're now on this really long lane without very much cover, and then they can invest their ultimates, and then they can even have people on flanks. They can have people on off angles, right? Like, what do they have? They have Ashe Widow. Kind of weird. If they had a Genji, imagine if he was waiting up here, you guys walked in, boom, off angle, boom, off angle, right? What they should be doing here is baiting you guys in, and then using those off angles to crush you guys, right? With this situation, they weren't really, you guys weren't really committed, so you're able to kite that. You guys got to recognize the same thing when it's on your end. When you're able to do this to the enemy team, you need to recognize that they should be committed. They should be in spaces where your angles can get value. Again, so now you have a window, so you push up. But again, they have this whole lane, right? So that they're at an advantage, really, really lowering your HP before you get into the fight. Your Genji is now blading, and he's not going to get very much support, which means he's going to get dead, right? Anytime your Genji is blading and he's like past their front line and your front line isn't there, it is just a miracle if he gets a single kill, right? Brig just stuns him. Brig literally just stuns him and then hits him. He can't win that. Again, when it comes to blades, when it comes to signals, when it comes to any ultimate that you're supposed to get kills with, an ultimate that you're supposed to be aggressive with, then you gotta be aggressive with it. Alright, I'm just gonna skip ahead a little bit more. You guys push this? Yeah, you guys do. Alright, let's see how you guys win this then. So overall, I'm mainly just talking about like the same stuff over and over. Oh, you guys swapped Orisa. That's cool. Means you guys have like a frontline presence when it comes to the spam war. Hog, I'd say overall is kind of worse than Sigma, but he does provide a lot of damage on the front line, so that's okay. Provides a very simple like win condition of just halt hook whenever you guys want to do that. That's good because it allows your core to basically deal with off angles. If somebody's on an off angle that's in halt hook range, they're not going to be on that off angle for very long, right? So if you guys play to that advantage, your guys, you know, Rissa Hog isn't that bad of a comp. Just always be looking to have a purpose behind whatever composition you can be on, and look for the win conditions, look for things that help you get an advantage in fights, and actually really play to those, really commit to that. Your Widow wins the duel. Also, oh wait, your Widow doesn't just win the duel. Okay, well he just died, but he's on a flank. That's good. That's really good, right? Because look at this. They don't have a shield here. I'd like to see your Genji maybe also taking a more aggressive angle. What I'd prefer is the other way around, because this is kind of a close range angle. You could have your Genji here, and then you could have your Widow here, right? That's probably a little bit better, because it keeps your Widow safer. In this case, it's much easier for them to turn around. Like, your Widow does get the pick, but with your tanks not having too much pressure on this zone, the enemy team can turn around. Like, they could literally have their whole team run back here and halt the Riss and then just kill her. Or halt the Widow and then just kill her. So be a little bit careful with how you off-angle. This is kind of risky, mainly because it's timing-wise. This would be less risky if your tanks were in here and there's really a team fight happening. Otherwise, I'd rather just have Genji do it and then have Widow over here. And in general, like, Widow's not that good. But $ is forcing value out of Widow because he's got really good aim. And yeah, you see they turn around, they allocate resources towards the off angle, and they force it out because the timing on that off angle is bad. Now let's see what this blade does. Nothing. Because, you know, you guys bladed in and you weren't pushing up. Okay, Bongo in a lost fight. Interesting, interesting. Then they Coalescence in a lost fight. Even more interesting. Your Widow gets a kill because they are peeking her for no reason. This is a fine spot for Widow to play. If you had Ashe, you could play even more aggressively. What you could do is you could have Ashe and Baptiste hop up here and then really take a lot of their space, right? If you're up here and they're down there, you can throw a Dynamite, easily get a bunch of team damage. I don't know how $sign feels about Ashe, but that's, you know, there's a lot of potential there. Widow is kind of forced to take this angle because she's much more vulnerable if she's up here. If somebody jumps on her, she doesn't have the coach gun like Ashe does. Yeah, this is an okay angle to take. Want to be a little bit careful with, you know, just generally in duels. You could always have your Baptiste up here as well, right? You could have your Baptiste helping out the Widow. And then, like, you know, if you have fine LOS and good pressure, you can help out the Widow or Ashe, and then you can still heal your tanks. It's a little bit risky right now, though, because their Ashe is getting free shots. Yeah, he's going to lose that. HP disadvantage, basically. They get a big flux. Alright. Finally. Oh. I was going to say, your Genji's finally going to get a kill because at least he was solo blading a Sigma, but no. Because he's still doing it in the LOS of these two snipers. And your team isn't pushing up. So, again, not saying your Genji's bad. I'm just saying every single time he pulls Blade, it's in a terrible situation where it's impossible for him to get a kill. Yeah, and they're Ashe, right? You see the power of an off angle up here? Like, look at this, right? This guy up here, once he goes to high ground, we'll watch him. Like, look at this. This guy right now is currently playing Kovacs. Like, he's not really getting any pressure because he's on this off angle. And he's allowed to just aim. He doesn't even need to care about his health. He could be at 1 HP right now. He doesn't really care because he's just getting free shots. And look at that. If they had a healer up there, like their Baptiste could also jump up here. All right, this would be an example of a very strong Baptiste Ashe off angle. He wouldn't even have to back up. He could literally just stay up there and he would, you know, your Baptiste would out heal the little bit of poke you get, right? That's the power of an off angle. One person on an off angle just, you know, won them that fight, basically. Okay, their Ashe is speaking a little bit early. I'm not a fan of that. Right, one thing that they could very easily do is they could hold this corner, right? When you're on defense, I mentioned this before, if you hold this corner, suddenly this entire lane for your team is very bad, and then they always have a place to kite. You guys don't have a place to kite when you're walking up here. So this is a big mistake on their part for not holding the space. Widow loses the duel, though, anyway, and now they start to push up. Yeah, right now, the way this match looks most of the time, or this scrim, like this whole map, it's really just which team's DPS has their turn to pop off. Like, that's really it. You guys aren't really taking the space that you need to. You're not setting up your angles. You're not putting resources well enough into your whole team. And they're not really doing that too much either. Their Widow wins the duel. Ooh, one thing about Bob, right? Bob can easily create another off angle. if you're wondering how to use Bob on Ashe, use him to create another angle. Throw him into like behind the team, and then that forces people to turn around, right? So let's say you had Echo, you had Ashe, you had Sigma, and you had Bob. You could literally have 5 points of aggression. You could have like a circle around the enemy team, depending on like where you are on the map. You can have so much power if you use those off angles. So Bob's very, very good for that if you're wondering how you should be doing that. And look at him go. Yeah, anyway, so that's the end of the map. Again, I know it was kind of repetitive because it's really just that core concept. Like, that is just a fundamental aspect of spam. So, you know, we can work on that, and then I can continue to coach you guys as you develop your skills with that. Because it definitely does take getting used to. Even for me, when I was learning off angles, right? Like, as a player, when I was doing that, it's tough. Like, intuitively, you know, you don't always want to get off angles. It's really easy to just like get scared and condense back up with your team, but you just got to get used to it. And I'm happy to do one-on-one reviews with people when it comes to applying that stuff in game. So before, just want to ask, did you guys basically play this kind of thing? Did you guys play dive or anything on other maps during the scrim, or do you mainly just play this kind of comp?
Let me double check maps. This scrim, yes, we only played mostly that kind of stuff. However, if you go back to the scrim before that, we do play dive. We mainly only play dive on Gibraltar.
You guys want? You feel like you need help with your dive?
I feel like that's.
If anybody says no, you're lying.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Drew's right. Our dive
Okay.
is very horrible.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna go grab the code for that then, and we'll see what we get. Do you know which code is it? It's Gibraltar.
It's the last one I posted.
Got it.
It's
I see.
bloody dip.
All right.
Arriving at Watchpoint Gibraltar.
This is dive.
We play dive on offense.
Okay. You guys can play dive on defense. You know, it's a dive map. It's dive both offense and defense. What you guys want to be doing is playing to control high ground, right? If you guys were playing dive, the kind of setup I'd like to see is, you know, tanks, DPS, whatever, right? If you guys are running Widow can start on blue box, supports can start on blue box, and then the rest of the team is up here. You guys can do that sort of frontline spam just for a second. Just watch out for halt hooks. But yeah, then you guys hold island. You have, you know, control over this whole area, and you mainly just poke and just hold on to this high ground. If the enemy team doesn't contest you and they just roll up to here, then you rotate, and then what you can do with this blue box high ground, also your supports will move back accordingly to like this area, the hangar, and your Widow can move back as well, right? So then you guys would just hold up here, you drop down onto them, you know, they're in the angle of your Widow, your Genjis, you know, can flank from like, well, basically you guys are all coming from above. But your Genji could flank. Your Genji could do that. That'd be a little bit risky, but it's possible. Anyway, you guys would just jump down here until you get low on HP or whatever, and then you just jump back up here. And that's really it. That's all it comes down to when you're holding with dive. If you're going dive versus dive, keep in mind they're going to try and take the high ground from you, and then you sort of just fight that. They're going to soft dive. You sort of just contest them. If you need a fallback, then sure. But mainly you want to keep control of this blue box high ground, because from here, you can jump to basically any relevant part on the map, right? You have control over here, you have LOS from all these angles, you can jump over here, right? You always want to keep control of blue box if you guys are defending on dive. Now, onto this composition. First of all, Widowmaker, you don't need to be in the front line. You could literally be on a flank, and you guys can push aggressively, right? Obviously, Widowmaker on a flank is tough. Against dive, that's only if you guys aren't going in. right? If you guys just let your Widowmaker sit up here and spam, sure, they'd turn around and they'd kill the Widowmaker. But if you have the Widowmaker hide, then you guys push in aggressively whenever there's an opportunity. She then peeks out, and then she gets picks, and they can't afford to deal with the Widow because they already invested resources in your front line. But yeah, what you guys are doing right now is you're holding low ground, and you're holding it very passively too. This is something very important if you guys are running Reinhardt, is don't hold low ground. Like, just don't, because you could hold high ground, and then if you want to go downstairs, right? If you want to, you just drop down and gravity takes you down. But now if you want to go back up, you have to take the stairs. It's super slow. So always, whenever you guys are setting up, when you guys are unsure of how to set up, default to high ground, because you can always drop off high ground later, but people like Ryan can't just jump up onto high ground, right? So here, right, the enemy team dives. Look at this. Look, what? I don't know why their Winston dropped. They could have committed here on the supports, right? Imagine they had, and their Genji has terrible timing, so does their Tracer. If they had 4 people, you know, Genji, Tracer, Winston, Diva diving here, your Ana's dead, your Widow's probably also dead, your Sigma's dead after that, right? And then your Rhine Brig do literally nothing. But then they drop down, and instead they kill your Brig. They trade Genji because he's 1 HP. But yeah, holding low ground is just so bad. Do not do that ever. Winston drops in, sort of just whatever happening. Like, again, another thing that you guys want to consider when it comes to just map control, when it comes to flanks, high ground provides a free flank for the enemy team if you guys aren't contesting it, right? Because you can only contest in this tunnel. They can just walk above you, and then they can get behind you for free, just like that, right? They don't need to do anything. These flanks are totally free if you guys aren't holding high ground. Right, this is basically like a vertical lane, right? You always want to be controlling all the possible lanes. If you guys are watching every angle, then it's impossible for them to flank you, right? If you're watching down here, you're watching like the left side, boom, done, that's it. There's literally no possible way for them to get past you unless they're Sombra and they're invisible. So you just let them flank, you let them have all this space up here, and that's going to make your hold way more difficult. Fortunately for you, though, they're kind of taking the frontline fight on dive a little bit too much, and that's disadvantage for them. When their monkey jumps on you, Ryan, he's going to bubble you, and you don't want that to happen because it's going to cut off your heals, right? So always step out of the bubble, because otherwise, you're basically getting anti-nated if you stand inside the bubble. Oh, your Genji's blading. That's cool. He managed to get a kill because, and in this case, right, their team is committed on your front line. It's not really your team putting pressure, but their team putting pressure. Like, they've already made their decision to go on your team. So yeah, you now do have the chance to actually get a kill for once with Dragon Blade. But it's the same concept, right? The enemy team is occupied, so that allows you to get value. And then you dash back in. That's good. That was a good blade. Alrighty, so now that you have the car in this position, let's see what you guys do. Nope, don't like the setup. Again, tanks can just hold high ground because, you know, it's like you just want to be up here. It's good. It stops their tanks from getting control. And if you need a drop, then drop, sure. But if you need to climb up, it's going to be really awkward for you guys to do that now. All right, your Widow can hold up here. Tanks can hold here. Anytime the enemy team wants to get on cart, they're going to be an LOS of your Widow. That's all you need to worry about. Widow could have died there. She's taking an aggressive angle and she doesn't have tanks to back her up. Now the enemy team just walks up the high ground, again, completely for free. And then they get this dive. Your your Widow dies because of that setup. And you guys go in. All right. So I have another question for you guys. Against dive in general, if you're running a non-dive composition, like let's say you're running spam, which is basically how you guys are playing this comp. Do you want to play stacked or do you want to sort of split up?
Play stacked. Dive looks to isolate a target. If we're playing stacked, they can't isolate anyone. They have to dive our 6.
Right. That's a common misconception because, right, a lot of people get that wrong because whenever you stack, that means you only have control of the area where you're stacked. It means they can get on high ground for free. It means that they can flank around this way for free. It allows them to have all the map control. And if they're on a coordinated dive, it doesn't really matter that much if you guys are stacked, right? What are you going to do? How are you guys going to save your Ana if there's a Genji, there's a Diva, there's a Monkey, and there's a Tracer all going on her, right? Realistically speaking, she's not actually going to live, even if you guys do have the defensive resources right there, because she's still going to die. They have a free setup, right? Even Genji, right? If she's not getting like perfectly shielded by Sigma or getting like grasped, there is potential that Genji can dash in and right click Dinker and she's dead, right? There's so much potential with dive to kill a single target. The reason why stacking sometimes works against dive teams is because they suck, because they can't actually focus down targets. If you guys are taking more angles, it's the same concept where they won't be able to get flanks because you're watching all the flanks. And when it comes to like, you don't want to, obviously you guys don't want to get split away from, where your team is. But if you guys are in LOS of each other, you can still help out, right? It depends on how you're setting up. But like, let's say like Ana and Brig, right? If Ana is, far away from somebody, she can still heal him. Brig can still heal him. You just need to be careful not to stand inside the Winston shield, right? If you just back out of the shield, there's no difference in terms of the healing output, really. Except for like a little bit from Brigitte's Inspire, but that's not really going to make that much of a difference. Same goes for Sigma. If he's in a position where he can get supported, as long as he doesn't like end up in a spot where he's like outside LOS, then he's going to be fine. It really just matters with LOS. You guys can split up without cutting LOS from each other. And then when it comes to like flankers, like Genji, or like if you guys have like Sombra, a Tracer, they can, to a certain extent, even cut LOS, right? Because a Tracer in like this area is totally self-sufficient, right? If they try and pressure out the Tracer, she can get Mega, she can blink out here, and she's totally safe, right? The enemy team's not going to chase down a Tracer, so your flankers, basically, they're going to get free off angles. Your Sigma, your tanks, and your supports, you can split a little bit, you can keep LOS, and that's just going to allow you guys to have more pressure here. Because look at this, right? You're stacking, and fortunately you have Flux, you have Sigma ult, but they still had a very good dive there. The reason why you guys won that wasn't because you were stacked, it was because you guys had more ults than them. And then you still lose it anyway, right? What does stacking do for you in that situation? Clutch Blade? Oops. Not gonna win. Again, you're blading solo. You're just really hoping to get kills. You're not doing the right steps to guarantee them. Yeah, and again, in this situation, right, if you guys stacked, right, let's say you stack low ground, this ship is so important for this phase, right? This ship is literally overpowered, right? Imagine you're on top of this ship and you're defending, right? There's 4 doors that the enemy team can enter from. You can see all of them, and as needed, you can cut LOS as much as you want, right? If you only want to see these 3 doors, right, let's say there's a Widow down there or whatever, right? You can cut LOS so you can still shoot the other ones and not get shot by the Widow. Let's say they're at top left, you can do that. Let's say it's the other one, right? You can sit like back here, right? Look at that. You can control your LOS, you can control your engagements, you can control how you fight if you have control of this ship. That is your top priority going into both offense or defense on this point. Is you guys need to be controlling this high ground. Right here, this is another free flank. If their Tracer goes up here, and then around here, boom, look at that. She's right on top of your Ana. She can just drop down and sticky. She can drop down in one clip. You guys are giving up space every single time you stack low ground. That's why dive is so good. Dive is so good on this point because they can hold high ground. As necessary, they can drop down and deal with whatever's low ground, and then they can just jump back up. It's that easy. They don't need to go take the stairs, walk through here, jump on top of this thing, jump on top of that thing, right? It's so easy. That's why dive tanks should be played 100% of the time if you guys are on first or second phase. Really the only like viable strategy, semi-viable strategy that I can think of that doesn't involve dive tanks is if you're holding like really close with like a brawl composition in here. And that's still not even the best strategy because you can get spammed out. But if you're doing anything without dive tanks for like the first or second phase, the high ground is just so important to the map that you're not going to win. So yeah, the enemy team, what they're doing is they're making the same mistake you are, where they're playing low ground so much they could, like, look at what their Genji's doing, right? He could be right here. Imagine if he's right here, Anna's right here, and then he just drops down, right? Imagine he just drops down and then he gets nano, right? Now he's on your flank instead of in your face. Yeah, they push in though, they have ult advantage, and now he blades, and he's gonna get a lot with that, yeah. Like, you guys are giving up space, you're letting them have their engagement, you're also being very passive, right? You guys used 0 ults that fight, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, you used 0 ults. You had ults. If you guys want to, if you guys don't have something to directly counter their ultimates, right? Like their Blade, their Nano, their Mercy Valk, then realistically speaking, yeah, you're going to lose if you let them use their ults first. The only way that you're going to win that fight is if you play proactively and you use your ults, right? If when they're sitting here doing nothing, if you can turn the corner and nano your Rhine or like and run into their supports or something like that, anything like that, then you're going to be much more advantageous. You guys lose this fight because A, you're giving up space everywhere. B, they have an ultimate advantage, and C, you aren't using what few ults you have. You're letting them pull the trigger first, and that's just 100% of the time going to lose you the team fight. So now you guys are on a Reaper and a Genji. Reaper is fine for creating flanks and pinching because he can just teleport into the back line. That's great, but I honestly feel like you guys aren't going to really utilize that, right? Here, don't bother fighting, just run. If you stop and turn to shoot, you're gonna die 100% of the time. See, Sigma, he was running like the whole time, I'm pretty sure, and he just he doesn't get out. So you can't afford to drop anything. As soon as you come out of spawn here, just run, just run, just run. Now here, finally, this is your guys' time. This point isn't a dive point. It's actually kind of not, because you have this super long lane, and then the high ground doesn't actually give you that much access, right? Like, this high ground isn't a flank route, because in order for them to get on that high ground in the first place, like a Tracer, right, they'd have to flank through here, and then that's something that you can scout. That is an angle you guys can watch, right? Just looking at this, right, if you're on this corner, you're cutting 90% of the flanks, right? You can see 90% of the flanks that they can do. The last few is on this side, and that's also scoutable. So this point is fine for spam. But anyway, with that said, let's see how you play it. You guys understand why this is not a dive point? Why this map's more spam favored? Or this part of the map? All good? Okay. Alright, so mistake here when it comes to spam. Right? As I mentioned earlier, you have this lane, right? At this point, cart's already really turning corner. You don't have time to contest it here. You could, you know, the optimal setup, right, is you're on this corner and you have turned this area into a lane. But here's already too late. So you just have this lane. There's no reason to be pushing up when you could be sitting back in this area, and then you still get the same amount of spam damage down this lane. And you have people watching this flank and you're fine, right? pushing up here is a mistake because you don't have a corner to play on, right? As soon as that Orisa shield breaks, she's nowhere to run, right? And then they're able to engage. And if you guys were just on this corner, it'd be way easier to counter a D.Va bomb because you just turn and then you just put down a shield here and you're done, right? But because you guys are on this engagement, people naturally are going to split for a D.Va bomb. So then some people go left, some people go right, and she's dead because of that, right? Anna dies just because you guys are pushing up. You can very, very, very easily just hold this corner, right? There's no reason because you're not going to get this lane. This lane is already controlled if you're right here. And you try to save a lost. Well, you guys have the ults to turn it, and that's fine. Yeah, that's good. They only really had bomb. Well, I mean, they had other ults, right? They only used bomb. They could have used other stuff, and that's why you guys won that fight. It's because they weren't able to confirm it with bomb, and then you guys just, you press a bunch of Qs. Sure, you're gonna win that. Yeah, realistically speaking, they should have done more ultimates there. They could have won that fight if they just Valk bladed. Anyway, they start swapping more towards brawl, towards a spam kind of comp, and they recognize it too. This isn't a die favorite map. So now let's see. Your Sigma and your Genji and your Reaper are on the same angle. That's not really the best because you want multiple points of aggression. This is 2. What you guys have here, you could very easily have 3. Tanks here, Reaper here, Genji up here, ready to pounce. Perfect, just like that. It's so easy to set up correctly with spam. Also, supports. Anna can just be right up here, right? You can still heal your tanks from here, and it's way safer if you have your Brig up here, right? Because the easiest counter to their Blade is when they dash up, they go for the supports. Anna runs in here, Brig stands here, right? It is impossible for you to miss your stun here, right? So the Genji dashes in, you stun him, and then Anna, you sleep him, right? That's a very, very, very consistent way to counter Nanoblade. You can do that in basically any doorway. Another popular spot is like when you're attacking and you're up here, or if you're up here, if you're defending and you're up here, right? All you do is you play the doorway with the Brig in front, stun the Blade, and Anna sleeps, right? So back to this point, it's safer to be on the high ground. Always choose to be on the high ground because by default. And then if you need to drop low ground for something, then you can, right? That's what the Brig is doing here. Brig can protect the Anna, and then if there's a big brawl happening on the front line, if Brig needs to be down there, she can. She can just drop down. She can help out. Don't just default to the low ground. So here, you guys get your nano in. So now you can have this engagement again. You guys should be pushing your front line a lot more. Yeah, suboptimal Nanoblade there because you weren't really engaging. Your Genji, if you wanted your Genji to be up here, or your Reaper could be literally like hiding right here, right? This is great. Imagine your Reaper's here, and you guys call out, you count it down with your 3, 2, 1, and then he TPs right here into the back line. It's so simple for setting up off angles. Always want to be setting up off angles. The only time you're not is if you're seriously on a really brawly comp. Like that's it, right? Even a lot of brawl comps can, create off angles. They can't create pinches, right? Like Reaper, again, as I said, he just TPs. Genji, he flanks, right? Genji Reaper, when Genji was buffed, that was being run by contenders teams because they could create angles, they could deal with off angles. It's not really good to just one trick, one singular angle. It's just not. Your Genji's overextending here. And then now look where your team is, right? This is just so bad for you guys because, you're not where you should be. Their Genji gets all these kills without even using his blade. Yeah, you guys kind of threw by pushing up here. You can push up, right? You can get some cleanup, but you really, really, really shouldn't be going past this because your setup for second point is so much more important. Like, really, who cares about these, like, 1 or 2 kills that you can get back here, considering how much you can get from a proper off-angling setup over here, right? You can have your tanks here, you can have your supports here. You know, supports are the biggest part about the setup, is they have to walk up these stairs, so that takes time. You guys need to allocate time for them to do that. Again, Genji Reaper, Sigma can even off-angle, right? Sigma can even, like, play towards this side, too, right? It's difficult to push the Sigma, because he has a Mega that he can back up to, and then if your Reaper's up here, then boom, look at that. Let's say they try and push your Sigma, and he kites, they create a free pinch for your Reaper. That's just how you guys have to think about the game, is you have to always think about how you can create off angles. Always think about how you can turn their engagement into walking into a shooting gallery, right? What you want to do is to have them walk in and then force them to look up, look left, look right, look behind them, right? The more you can do that, the more you can win. Yeah, I don't see a lot happening here. Yeah, this is just a stall fight, whatever. Alright, let's move on. Any questions about that? Is anybody awake and breathing?
I just got here, but I don't think I have any questions.
Alright, cool. Yeah, core concept is don't stand in one spot. Angles are always good because, you know, you control more of the map. You can see where their flankers are going. You can put pressure from multiple angles.
Oh,
Alright, now.
one thing.
You go ahead.
Classic was our old main tank, so
Yeah, you don't have to review anything you see him doing.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, sure. Just pay attention to his mistakes. So for a new
Yeah,
tank.
yeah, there you go.
yeah.
Okay, so you guys are running dive here. Let's skip ahead.
Ready for battle.
One tiny thing that's not really like a dive thing is, you know, a lot of people sit here for the you know, for the frontline spam. You can do a halt hook if you want and maybe get a pick. And if you guys want to go really far with that, you can even Symmetra TP your Orisa and your Hog, and then they can do a halt hook right here, right? It's kind of like, I mean, it is a valid strategy, but it's not something you guys have to do. It's just up to you guys. It's kind of just fun, honestly. Okay, I was wondering why this replay was so freaking long. Okay, so you guys are running out on Winston, Ball, Genji, Pharah, Anna, and Mercy. All right. So I say Widow is actually a very good pick for this point. I'm pretty sure everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Pharah is not in the best spot right now, especially because they're running a Widow. Anyway, with this composition, you guys want to recognize is, again, you want to be taking angles because it's a dive. You want to recognize Pharah has a lot of spam. She has a lot of power to sort of contest their angles if she's uncontested, right? How can, like, the support stay in that room if there's a Pharah up here spamming them, right? So you always want to recognize that. You want to create space for your Pharah, and then your Pharah can be part of that sort of, like, suffocation of the enemy team from angles, right? You can slowly just apply pressure with Pharah very, very easily and force their angles out, just force them to have really bad map space. As I mentioned before, as a dive team, your top priority is taking this high ground and then taking this high ground. Cart is secondary. Usually teams run a Diva because it's really easy to move cart and then fly up, assist the dive, drop cart. Diva's the only one who should really be on cart, and supports can move up through the stairs.
Yeah, so our normal dive is Winston Diva. In this case, Classic was not comfortable playing Winston, so it forced me onto the Winston.
Yeah, interesting. So here your Genji dies because he's like, if you guys are at the door, I'd like to see you guys jump here, you know, with DM, with Winston Mobile, whatever, force people out of this angle. Because right now your Genji is sort of taking an angle way too early.
Yeah, I tried to jump there and I missed.
Okay, yeah, oof. Yeah, so first jump here, Second, and first jump here, you can drop as needed. Second jump here, and then as necessary, depending on whether they give ground, whether you get kills or whatever. You can keep dropping down. Like here, the big goal when it comes to gaining map control isn't like hard committing onto a target just yet. It's soft dives where you jump up, try and push them out. If you fail, the top priority is not dying, right? If you fail, then drop back down, then jump back up, then drop back down, and keep trying to do that until you can push out this angle where you can get control of this map space. And then usually they kite back to here. And then it's the same deal where you want to sort of get on top of here. And even if they have tanks like up here and you guys are here, there's still a lot of potential, because what that means is your Genji can run around here and like he jumps and then Nano dashes up, and tanks can still jump like through the enemy tanks, like through there, right? So you generally just want to get control of this high ground. Anyway, let's see how you guys play. Now you clearly trying to do that. If people dropping down, yeah, your Widow just loses. I mean, your Widow, Yufara just loses to their Widow. And then you sort of take, yeah, this is a very good opportunity to start getting your supports moving high ground. See, they're cutting back. Definitely want your supports, or I guess in this case, just Ana going high ground.
Okay.
Because again, and then once you get cart to here, don't worry about it. Like, again, it should just usually be your diva who's getting cart here and then coming back up, because the maximum priority is always winning the fight. This is something that a lot of teams mess up sometimes. Don't worry about the point. Worry about winning the fight. Worry about taking advantageous positions. Because how this game is designed, most of the time, being on point isn't the best position in the game. The game would really suck if being on point was the best position in the game, because then meta would just be who can stand on point more, right? So you just want to move it a comfortable amount up and then jump high ground and control this, because this is going to help you win the fight. You can worry about cart later.
And you said I should move high ground as like the Ana or what other heals were running.
Because once your diva has moved this enough, he's going to come back high ground, and then all your teammates are going to be high ground. So you want to be there so you can heal them.
Okay.
And again, like I said, you see how they're holding? Our main priority is diving up here, so then you can be at this corner so you can heal your teammates. Guys knock their diva in, interesting. It's kind of a misplay for the diva, but we'll take it. And then what I don't like here is with this whole thing that was going on with the diva, our monkey was low ground this entire time. And that was also forcing our Ana to be low ground so that our Ana could heal him, right? We don't want that. We want everybody to be on high ground. This way, if Ana needs to heal somebody else, she doesn't need to worry about a rock being in the way. And this also with Winston, he doesn't want to be 1v4ing. He wants to be helping with chasing these kills. If we go back just a little bit to when we knocked that diva in, right? Look at this, right? Diva goes in. Their Mercy flies in. Imagine if Winston was here. That'd be a lot easier. I'd say there's potential that you guys would clean up the Mercy in addition to killing the Pharah. But you have your Ana and your Widow up here. Ana could also contribute nade and sleep.
Yeah. I think it's because when I'm playing the diva, I have the jets on a slightly faster cooldown than jump pack. I was not positioning correctly with the Winston.
Yeah, Alex normally doesn't play Winston, so
I'm an
he's usually on the he's usually on the
I see,
diva.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough. So yeah, what Classic is doing here is very good. He's clearly playing for this blue box high ground, and you guys are winning. You guys are taking that space. Pharah just goes in. And now you guys are really splitting a lot. The way that dive works when it comes to splitting is you guys are split for your setup as needed, right? You're split for those angles, for those flanks, and then you're supposed to converge onto one target, right? You don't want to be splitting mid-fight. That's always bad, basically. You want to be converging on the same target. That way you're maximizing your damage output. I know that's kind of an obvious thing, but it's just something you gotta have to get used to. Just watch yourself and always try your best to during mid-fight be on the same target and such. Widow wins the 1v1 against, I mean, your Pharah wins 1 against Widow, but then dies to Ana. Yeah, Pharah is just rough. I'd love to play Pharah more often, but she's kind of not in a good spot right now.
We also made the mistake there of going. We like all went into that low ground room on the right there, right?
Server,
Yeah, yeah, we were all in there, and then just Genji had a free nano blade.
Yeah.
Or we didn't even nano blade; it was just a blade, but.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an okay jump if they have like supports in there and if you guys are following up properly, where you guys have timing, then sure you can. But the problem is you guys didn't have timing, so you guys didn't get the kills, and therefore you stayed in there too long, and then the blade happened. That's a timing issue.
It was that, and then like if I came in there because as a diva player, playing Winston, I was like I saw my supports getting dove. I'm like, oh, I need to go peel. And so I jumped in there, giving him even more targets in there.
Yeah, like if sometimes when you guys set up, when you guys are pushing this high ground, you'll occasionally see their supports playing in here. That is an okay dive if you guys want to try it. You just need to be together. It's always better to be stupid together than to be smart separately.
That's a good expression.
Yeah. Oh, on the case of are we going to keep playing Genji? We've talked, and we're going to move more to probably an Echo, just because Echo seems to be quite powerful right now.
Yeah,
and
okay.
Drew's Echo's pretty good too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So why don't you guys tell me how is that going to affect your playstyle?
It's going to be, I mean, Echo can be, I feel like, used in spam pull stickies. I feel like with her, you're looking to burst the target down very quickly.
Okay.
I feel like her kit lends itself to bursting characters down very quickly.
Right. Okay. So one thing I want to say about Echo is the way that Echo plays compared to Genji is different when it comes to off angles, right? If like Echo, she off angles, right? She wants to be putting pressure from an area where she's not shooting shields, and she doesn't really have the same kind of mobility and sort of like punishment that Genji does, right? Previously, before Genji was buffed and it was like just Echo Ashe, like right after Echo came out, the Sigma would always off angle with the Ashe because it was fine. But now once Genji got buffed, then that stopped happening, and it was a Brig and a Sigma, because what would happen is the Genji would just dash in and kill the Ashe and then dash out before the Sigma could really do anything. Because Genji is very, very good at punishing off angles because he can take those 1v1s and he can win those. Not so much anymore because of the nerf, but when he was strong, that's what Genji excelled at doing, is if somebody was a little bit out of position or if somebody didn't, if somebody was just in the lane, right, he could fight them and either kill them or force them back very, very easily. So now with Echo, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to play slower on angles, right? If there's somebody contesting an Echo's angle, you might have to provide more resources towards getting that angle out. And the Echo might have to play slower because Echo can't as easily, like Sig Ashe, right? Echo cannot win that, right? Echo just can't. So if that's happening, or if there's a Sig Ashe off angle, you guys need to mirror that or somehow in a different way commit resources into breaking their off angles. Genji's very good for breaking off angles. You guys don't have that as much now. So in general, you just need to play more slowly. Alrighty. So your ball is slamming in. They're mirroring and they're going back. Pharah just sucks, man.
It is quite unfortunate how
Yeah.
bad of a place Farah's in.
Yeah, I used to play Pharah so much. You know what? I just miss being able to play 3 different characters in one scrim block. That's what I want, dude. That's it. I'd be happy if I could just get that.
Are you just stuck on Genji duty right now?
Well, I mean, now that we're moving away from that, it's Echo duty now as well. Yeah. But But yeah, it's just boring to just only play Mei and then only play Echo. I mean, Echo was fun, but like after a while, just only play Echo, only play Genji, whatever, you know. So right. So what's happening here is they're pushing up, they're holding this high ground, and you guys aren't really going in at the same time as your ball, so you're gonna be at a very big disadvantage. Also, your Pharah is really like having a struggling because the Widow is gonna have LOS on her. So what you guys need to be doing is tanks need to be going in, right? Forcing out the Widow, and then a millisecond later, like as soon as the Widow no longer has pressure, that's when your Pharah needs to be engaging and capitalizing off that dive. You guys in general, you're just not in sync, so you're not going to have very successful dives. Right? That's solo primal dive is okay. Like I get the idea behind it, and people do that, but the problem is there still needs to be the follow up. Like there needs to be more ability to commit, and the problem with Pharah is she's not really able to do that. The reason why Pharah is not getting too much value in this composition is because Pharah isn't the active part of a dive composition, right? She plays the same kind of role as Sombra, in which she's slow and she sets up the dive, right? Pharah is going to be creating an opportunity for your team to engage, right? Normally. So normally what would happen back when Pharah was relevant is the Pharah would get some core win condition, like a lot of spam, like she'd just shoot them and they'd all be really low, or she'd get a pick, or maybe she could like boop them into an area that's vulnerable for your tanks, and then that would be the trigger for the engage, right? Because Pharah is what would create the trigger. But in this case, you're having the monkey sort of the tanks dive in and create that trigger, and then expecting the Pharah to follow up really quickly, when just by definition, she just doesn't do that, because Pharah, like the way she shoots is just, you know, boom, 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 right? And it's a projectile that's not always going to hit. So unless you double direct someone, you're not as likely to actually get kills. The best way to do it is when you do direct someone, that's that opportunity for you guys to go in once somebody's low. So here it's where you're playing the wrong way, because your Pharah doesn't have the space initially. She needs to have the space initially, otherwise she's not going to be successful. And that's why this dive is really suboptimal. Interesting, Nanoblade. Yeah, you guys win this fight off the back of Nanoblade, and really Pharah isn't doing that much. That's an issue. That's why, like, you guys need to be okay with swapping when you realize that something isn't working. Like, please, 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 please swap. It's I mean, it is okay though. Like on one hand, like if you guys just want to practice something and get it down, that's fine. Like I've been on teams and I've had teams practice in a way where sometimes you just need to get a concept down so importantly that you can just one trick a composition. Like there's sometimes where you'd one trick a composition and it wouldn't be best. You'd be running into a counter comp, but the whole point is to like build that. So that's fine. But if that's not your goal, then definitely you guys should be swapping during scrims, right? And unless your goal is specifically to practice that one character or that like setup, then definitely swap, because what that means is when you guys are in matches and then something stops working, you guys are going to freeze up and you're not going to know what to do because you've never swapped in scrims before. So then now let's say you do swap. Now you're in a situation where you're playing a character that you aren't as familiar in because you don't have as much scrim time on them.
Yeah. Our whole thing here was we just wanted to run dive. We just wanted to practice our dive because we're like,
yeah,
we're horrible at dive, let's practice it.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, Genji Widow would be so good. Genji Widow would be so good for that. Genji Tracer, if your Widow isn't winning the duels or having trouble in any way. Tracer Genji, now that Genji's sort of out of it, Tracer Widow. Yeah, kinda. Yeah, I mean, Sombra is, again, it's a playstyle thing where you have to recognize where Sombra, she has to create the opportunity for your guys' dive. So if you play around that, where you play like Sombra Tracer would be cool, because what you do is you set up your Sombra gets the hack, and that triggers the engage from your team. So yeah, that'd be okay. But yeah, in general, just Pharah is not that good because she needs to get the opportunity to trigger the engage. But with how meta works, when you're going against a hit scan, especially on a very Widow favored map, she's not going to have the space she needs to create those triggers. Yeah, so as I mentioned before, as soon as you're setting up on dive, you want to be taking control of high ground. As soon as they're out those doors, you want to be on this ship because it's going to make it so much easier for you guys to execute your dives throughout the phase. Skip ahead. This is actually a good position for your... let's see. This is actually not a bad position for your Pharah because she finally has this space where now they're on Ashe, which is a slightly less oppressive pick, and because they're all coming through this choke point. So what should be happening is you guys should be recognizing that as they come through this choke, the Pharah spam is creating an opportunity for a dive. So as soon as they're coming out, Pharah spam is going in, and your tanks should be diving in here, because that's when you guys are going to get the advantage. You aren't going to get the advantage later in the fight, because later in the fight, their hit scan is going to be out the door. Their hit scan's going to have the space to shoot your Pharah. Oof.
Yeah, that's a little awkward.
Don't do that. Don't go super low, because that happens.
I don't think he meant to go super low. I think it was just a timing thing.
Yeah, you don't want to go super low. And you really just need a few kills there. You really just need some pressure, right? Because what's going to happen is their tanks are going to go through, and then like the middle of their team, whether it's DPS or whether it's support coming out of that door next, those are the ones that you're like barraging, and then from there, their tanks are sort of stuck in, and that's when you clean up the tanks. Let's watch it again, just so everybody gets a good look. Alrighty, moving on. Nonetheless, your team does find some sort of advantage from that, and they are pushing in. You guys are now up in the fight. That's good. Pop more ults. And yeah, so you guys are gonna win this like half fight, and then they're gonna have this recontest. And yeah, what's happening is, again, you guys don't really have the pressure. You don't really have what you need to be doing to stop their supports from being up here. And then your Genji's not going to get any value because he's dashing at an Ashe who has Coach Gun, and he's not having a team that can support him. The team jumps in and basically, you know, you have Winston D.Va eat those cooldowns for him. His blade's going to get way more value. But here, he's only able to get one kill, and he's sort of out of the fight for most of it. Meanwhile, their Genji is in here. He does have Nano Blade, to be fair, but their team's putting on a lot more pressure, so their Genji is able to get more value. Yeah, Pharah is just a disadvantage across the board. So now here, they're taking a little bit of high ground. Your Pharah just loses. That sucks. And yeah, from here, if you guys aren't controlling high ground, what that means is anytime you go for a cross through here, they can always jump on your backs, right? High ground's super, super important. You do get the jump onto the high ground. They get the jump on your support. I'm sort of just skipping through this because it's more of the same. You guys just need to be playing high ground. That's really it.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so it's been 2 hours. I know everybody's tired as well as I am. But, and yeah, I've been talking a lot about the same stuff. So, just to recap for everybody, if it's time to wake up from your nap, this is the part you want to listen to. Yeah, listen, I've experienced as a player. I know how it is. Can't blame you. I know how it is. So, spam, right? You guys just need the fundamentals down. That is the core concept, is you always want the fundamentals down when it comes to spam. And that means you guys aren't stacking as 6, right? I'm going to stop screen sharing. I'm going to write in team resources this as I talk, right? So spam fundamentals, you want to always stack it, or not stack